All rise, the Monroe County Board of Commissioners is now in session. Chairman Mitch Ingram presiding. God bless the United States, state of Tennessee, and Monroe County.
Commissioner Summer, will you give an indication, please?
Thank you, God, for the opportunity to come and to conduct the business for the county. Help us to always be truthful, honest, and in making decisions that we know that will affect the entire county. We love you, and we are amazed by your beauty each and every day. Thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Commissioner Reynolds, will you lead us in pledge?
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Chris Wiseman.
Here.
Roger Thomas. Here. Paulette Summey.
Present.
Bill Shadden.
Here.
Adam Ware.
Present.
Chad Leeny.
Here.
T.J. Langford.
Here.
Richard Kirkland.
Here.
Brian Carroll. Joe Anderson. 8 present.
Before we start with the agenda, I did have a couple of commissioners asked to give a brief update on the COVID report for the county based on our numbers. And we've distributed just a timeline, kind of what as a county, what we've done since the outbreak started. And I have that in front of you. But as of today, I want to give you some numbers, and of course these numbers are on the State Department of Health website every day. We tested in Monroe County a total of 978 people. Now, when you look at the big scheme of things, compared to a population of 47,500 roughly, that's only about 2% of our population that's been tested. The good news out of those 978, 920 of those are negative. So we do have 58 positive cases, and that counts the first 2 cases until our most recent cases. So we have 21 active cases. That's one of the questions that we get asked every day is how many are active. So that leaves 37 recovered. And this rolling average is about the same roughly as when we first started testing. That's about a 5.9% positive test rate, which is still very good. That's roughly about what the state average is. But when you compare that to the entire population of the county, that's not even a tenth of 1%, right at a tenth of 1% of our population has been tested positive. So those are the numbers as of today, and of course those are on the state website each and every day. We have had some fatalities. 2 are reported, possibly a third. So that's where we're at. So some was asking for that information, but that's where we're at today. The 2 questions that we get all the time is why are our numbers increasing? Obviously, we're testing more. Told someone before the governor rolled out the massive surge testing, we only had about 278 tests through April the 18th, and since then we've tripled the number of tests that we've had. So obviously, with more tests, we're going to have more positives. I will say, based on one of our companies or 2 facilities in adjoining counties, that does reflect our numbers as far as our positive cases that work at one of those facilities or companies, and they reside in Monroe County. So just to give you an update on kind of the trend, how our numbers fluctuate, that's an update on that. All right, 526-1. Commission minutes from our previous April 28th meeting. You have those in front of you.
Make a motion.
Have a motion from Commissioner Wiseman to accept the minutes from the April 28th meeting.
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Thomas. Is there any corrections to the minutes? All those in favor of accepting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those minutes will be accepted as printed. 526-2, no public applications. To my knowledge, Ms. Angela, we don't have any additions to those, do we? So we have none, so there, won't have to take any action on those for this month. 526-3, trustee monthly report. You have trustee report from Ms. Hall's office before you. Do I have a motion to accept this report?
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second, is there any questions or discussion on the report? All in favor of accepting the report, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that report will be accepted. 526-4, Director of Finance report. We have this report in front of you from Ms. Hicks.
Motion.
Have a motion from Commissioner Summey to accept the finance report. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second from Commissioner Lynn. Is there any discussion or questions?
Yeah, I don't know if it'd be appropriate on this, but, for future reference, I guess how the hotel motel taxes broke down previously, we'll have to address that topic before that money goes in the future. Because it's broken down to ECD, economic development, and the tourism department, 75-25 split, so now that money has to go somewhere else, I would think, so I guess that would be for a future discussion, maybe next month.
Thank you, Mr. Kirkland. Is there any other comments or questions on the report? All in favor of accepting the report, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That report will be accepted. 526-5, a resolution to declare computers as surplus property and dispose on the listed equipment at Monroe County Solid Waste site. Whereas Monroe County has the authority to declare items as surplus that are no longer deemed necessary or adequate to properly perform the duties of county government as prescribed by law. And whereas Monroe County Engineering IT Department desires to declare surplus property the attached list, Exhibit A of computer equipment. Whereas IT Director Brett Miller requests approval to declare the attached list of surplus and dispose of the listed equipment at the Monroe County Solid Waste site. And Mr. Miller has provided that list of exhibits, page 1 and page 2 of Exhibit A. I have a motion from Commissioner Wiseman to surplus. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Thomas. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris Wiseman.
Aye.
Roger Thomas. Paulette Summey.
Aye.
Bill Shea.
Aye.
Adam Reynolds.
Aye.
Chad Leeny.
Aye.
TJ Langford.
Aye.
Richard Kirkland.
Motion carries. 526-8, be it resolved, Monroe County Commissioners meeting in regular session, May 26th, following amendment of the Monroe County Engineering IT Department be made in the Monroe County Engineering IT Department budget to transfer funds used for office renovations for $3,500.
Motion.
Have a motion from Commissioner Summer. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Shattuck. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris Wiseman.
Aye.
Roger Thomas. Paulette Summey.
Aye.
Bill Shea.
Aye.
Adam Reynolds.
Aye.
Chad Leeny.
Aye.
TJ Langford. Richard Kirkland.
Motion carries. 526-5B, be it resolved, the Monroe County Commissioners meeting in regular session, May 26, 2020. The following amendment to Monroe County Jail be made in the county general fund budget for fiscal year 1920 in the amount of $959.
Motion.
Have a motion from Commissioner Kirkland. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second from Commissioner Lemon. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris Weisman.
Aye.
Roger Thomas. Paulette Summey.
Aye.
Bill Shadden.
Aye.
Adam Reynolds.
Aye.
Chad Leeny.
Aye.
TJ Langford.
Aye.
Richard Kirk.
Motion carries. 526-5C. Be it resolved, Monroe County Commissioners meeting in regular session, May 26, 2020. The following amendment to the Monroe County Sheriff's Department be made in the county general fund budget for the fiscal year 2019-2020 in the amount of $4,000 for training.
Motion.
Have a motion from Commissioner Langford.
Second.
A second from Commissioner Kirk. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris Weisman. Roger Thomas. Paulette Summey.
Aye.
Bill Shadden.
Aye.
Adam Reynolds.
Aye.
Chad Leeny.
Aye.
TJ Langford.
Aye.
Richard Kirk.
Motion carries. 526-5D. Be it resolved, Monroe County Commission meeting in regular session on May 26, 2020, the following amendment to the Monroe County Sheriff's Department be made in the Monroe County General Fund budget for the year 1920 in the amount of $823.20 for insurance recovery.
Motion.
Have a motion from Commissioner Lemon. Is there a second? Have a second from Commissioner Thomas. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris Weisman.
Aye.
Roger Thomas. Paulette Summey.
Aye.
Bill Shadden.
Aye.
Adam Reynolds.
Aye.
Chad Leeny.
Aye.
TJ Langford. Richard Kirk.
Motion carries. 526-5E, be it resolved, Monroe County Commissioners meeting in regular session, May 26, 2020, the following amendment to the Monroe County Health Department be made in the county general fund budget for fiscal year 1920 in the amount of $585.67.
Motion.
Have a motion from Commissioner Sunny.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Langford. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris Weisman. Roger Thomas. Paulette Summey.
Aye.
Bill Shadden.
Aye.
Adam Reynolds.
Aye.
Chad Leeny.
Aye.
TJ Langford. Richard Kirk.
Motion carries. 526-5F. Be it resolved, Monroe County Commissioners meeting in regular session, May 26, 2020, the following amendment to the Monroe County Sheriff's Department be made in the county general fund budget for the fiscal year 2019-2020 in the amount of $293.80 for a grant for meth pay.
Motion.
Have a motion from Commissioner Wiseman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, from Commissioner Thomas. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris Weisman. Roger Thomas. Paulette Summey.
Aye.
Bill Shadden.
Aye.
Adam Reynolds. Chad Leeny. TJ Langford. Richard Kirk.
Motion carries. 526-5G, be it resolved, Monroe County Commission meeting in regular session, May 26, 2020, the following amendment for a TBA grant for the Department of Economic and Community Development be made in the county general fund budget for the fiscal year 2019-2020 in the amount of $3,500 for laptops.
Motion.
Have a motion, Commissioner Langford. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second from Commissioner Thomas. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris Weisman. Roger Thomas. Paulette Summey.
Aye.
Bill Shadden.
Aye.
Adam Reynolds. Chad Leeny.
Aye.
TJ Langford. Richard Kirk.
526-5H. Be it resolved, Monroe County Commission meeting in regular session, May 26, 2020, the following amendment to the Monroe County General Fund be made in the county general fund budget for the fiscal year 1920 for this reclassification at the instructions of the state of Tennessee auditors. And you can see those items, those cost centers that are to be adjusted, increased, and decreased at the request of the auditors. Ms. Courtney? Okay, Ms. Courtney, do you have anything to add to these next two?
Those are just changing the fund numbers. There are no budgetary numbers changing. It's only the fund numbers, our accounting numbers that we use.
Thank you. Have a motion from Commissioner Sumner. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second from Commissioner Langford. Is there any discussion?
This is where they're just changing the side numbers, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Chris Weisman.
Aye.
Roger Thomas. Paulette Summey.
Aye.
Bill Shannon. Adam Reynolds.
Aye.
Chad Leeny.
Aye.
TJ Langford. Richard Kirk.
Motion carries. 526-5I, be it resolved, Monroe County Commission meeting in regular session, May 26, 2020, the following amendment to the Monroe County General Fund be made in the county general fund budget for the fiscal year 1920. This is a reclassification at the instruction of the state of Tennessee auditors.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion from Commissioner Wiseman, a second from Commissioner Langford. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris Weisman.
Aye.
Roger Thomas. Paulette Summey.
Aye.
Bill Shannon.
Aye.
Adam Reynolds.
Aye.
Chad Leeny. TJ Langford. Richard Kirk.
Motion carries. 526-5J, be it resolved, Monroe County Commission meeting in regular session, May 26th, the following amendments to Monroe County General Fund be made in the county general fund budget for fiscal year 1920. This resolution is to cover utility costs for the old jail facility in the amount of $76,000. Have a motion from Commissioner Wiseman. Is there a second? Second from Commissioner Langford. Is there any discussion?
You said it's to cover the old jail?
Yeah, it's a reclassification, plus, Chad, that we still have to keep the electricity on down there, as Albert mentioned last Monday, or until this body decides what to do with that facility.
Did we ever get the prices of what that facility costed?
Talk about the old jail, the annex.
The annex.
Yep, you have in front of you the annex.
You put it on that.
It's on a single sheet of paper.
She just sent me up this afternoon.
Oh, I don't know if I got that one.
He got that, you had his down there at the bottom, too, Jay.
Okay.
I actually saw it, so you know. Down here it says, I don't know how many months this is for, but anyway.
No, Angela, he has a handout that I gave out to the budget committee
Yeah.
Oh,
of
okay.
the, and it's 12 months. What it costs for 12 months.
There.
I got it.
Did you find it?
Yeah.
But I made a notation on that too, Commissioner Langford, that those costs are when it was fully, it had prisoners in it.
Fully running, yeah.
And I don't know how that would change if it were an empty building and used for storage, and so I wanted to make that notation on
Right.
the Charles on that. That was something they were gonna use in the budget workshops. It's two different things.
I noticed this one, for the annex has insurance, but this one don't. Is that assumed somewhere too, that we don't have insurance on it?
Well, no, you have insurance, but what he asked me for in the budget committee was what it would cost to keep that annex open,
I'm
and insurance is a part of that cost.
sorry, I mean, as far as this resolution we're looking at,
No, that, it doesn't have that in it.
so we don't have to pay insurance for that building?
You do, but it's covered through the county commission budget,
Okay,
but it's part of the cost of keeping it open. It's just two different things.
So, gotcha.
This resolution is only moving utility money from one budget to the other budget for the
It's
same
moving from
utility
the old
lines.
school to the new, or from the old jail to the new jail, right?
Yes, because we didn't know at what time we'd actually move into this new facility.
Right.
So because it was later, we had more utility costs. So this is just moving money to cover those costs from the Justice Center budget to the jail, the old jail budget.
48,000 for water and sewer,
Mhm.
with nobody there? How's that work?
They just moved out of there.
Right,
If you'll look at the pages behind the resolution, you'll see the statement of expenditures.
okay, I got it.
So that is from July 1st through now, and that should get us through June 30th.
Got it. Okay.
You have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Chris Weisman.
Aye.
Roger Thomas. Paulette Summey.
Aye.
Bill Shannon. Adam Reynolds.
Aye.
Chad Leeny.
Aye.
TJ Langford.
Aye.
Richard Kirk.
Motion carries. 526-6, we have Monroe County Board of Education budget amendments, rather lengthy document. What is the pleasure of the group on these budget amendments?
Motion.
Have a motion from Commissioner Langford. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second from Commissioner Shadden. Is there any discussion or questions regarding these budget amendments?
What's the overages for electricity and water used when the kids get there?
I'm sorry.
They have $18,000 overages in water and electricity and gas used when they go back into school.
A lot of that is Sequoia, and I asked Phil about that, and the answer that I got, is that they used a whole lot of water for football fields at the beginning of the year, and they watered everything but the concrete, is what he said. And I don't have to do this amendment, but I'm making the budget look good because I'm just moving money from one line to the other.
Yeah.
I mean, we can finish out the year and have lines that are over, but I'd prefer it to look as good as we could. And it's just moving it within the water and the sewer and the gas. And it's just an estimate when you do these things, because some winters are mild and some are not. We use more gas some winters than we do others.
Any other questions or discussion on the school budget?
With the schools being closed, like Commissioner Wiseman said, there's going to be overages, I hope, in utilities and such. I mean, not overages, but money not
Yes.
surplus.
There's gonna be a little bit, not as much as I had hoped, but, there are a few line items that are not being used, yes.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Chris Weisman.
Aye.
Roger Thomas. Paulette Summey.
Aye.
Bill Shannon. Adam Reynolds.
Aye.
Chad Leeny. TJ Langford.
Aye.
Richard Kirk.
Motion carries. 526-7, before I read this resolution, I'm going to call on our general sessions judge, Mr. Thomas, to come and present. He came and along with Veterans Officer Andy Boyd with this request, and we chatted about this, and I'm going to let Judge Thomas explain this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for having me, and commissioners. Before I speak about this directive, I wanted to give you a little bit of update about what we're doing with the courts, because I know that's been a big question everybody's had. Beginning June 1st, so next Monday, we're going to start slowly opening courts back. to a more regular schedule, and hopefully that'll get us moving along. I've been the designated emergency judge since I was the lucky one being here for all the courts. So I've been working the whole time, but we will start some more regular court dates and scheduling as of Monday with kind of a broader rollout by June the 15th. We still have to do the social distancing. We still have to do the security into the courtroom as far as not allowing folks just to be standing around. That's cut down some of our programs. Juvenile court, we're not going to be able to do our summer work camp up at Indian Boundary, but we are going to work some stuff out around the county where these kids will still be working. We're just kind of waiting to hear back from the schools about some work for that. So courts are functioning. We're here every day. We're still working on trying to keep the jail population down with the sheriff's department. So things are going. So just as a quick update as where we are with the courts. But the purpose of today is in regards to our Veterans Center, the county, the great news about tonight is I'm asking for no new money. We're just talking about things we've already done. Obviously, just to bring everybody up to speed, our Veteran Services Center is what we're calling what used to be juvenile court and general sessions court. We put the Andy down there with Veteran Services. His offices are down there now. Vet to Vet, which runs my Veterans Court, has an office down there. Helen Ross McNabb Center, who's under a grant, is going, and we're still working on getting some equipment down there, but they will be doing counseling for veterans, both emotional counseling, social counseling, and substance counseling for the first time in our county down at that building. So we're making that kind of a service center for veterans. With that too, Helen Ross McNabb is later going to be able to provide services for our juveniles and our families through the juvenile court at the same facility. So it's a thing that out of 95 counties in Tennessee, we're the only one that has a county-sponsored veteran and family service center. That includes Knoxville, Davidson County, all of those counties, because they have the VA service center there, they have other service centers there, they have other sponsored centers, but the county itself does not provide one. So that's something we can be really proud of. And that brings me to the point of today's resolution. I'm asking this board to name that Veterans Center after Bob Hatley. And I'm sure that most of the people on the board know Bob, also, Robert L. Hatley, but went by Bob. Long time, lifelong resident of Monroe County, but had been a minister here in this county. But some of you may not have known, Bob also served as a sergeant in the U.S. Army. He served in Vietnam, had a very distinguished career in the military. But the most important thing is Bob, when he got home, became a counselor of people, not just veterans, just people. Bob loved this county, and he loved the people of this county. He was active in the Masons, active in the Eastern Star, very active in the Veteran Services. In fact, when I took office 6 years ago, one of the first people to hit me up when I was campaigning for a promise was Bob Hatley. And it wasn't a promise to do anything for anybody's charges or look at any type of case for him. It was a promise that I would do something to help veterans who get involved in the court system and keep them from being a statistic. He also hit me up on some other things about helping families and how I should live my life. So in a lot of ways, Bob became a real mentor to me as well. But Bob was a member of the Disabled Veterans. He is a founding member of Vet to Vet, which provides all of our services for the Veterans Court. And he is the founding member of the Monroe County Veterans Court. Just to give you an idea of what that's become in this county, Veterans Court for Monroe County has run until just this year, Veterans Court for the whole district. We have had all 4 counties of our district, as well as Loudoun County, Ray County, Rome County, Blount County, and one county I'm missing, but we've had 5 other counties send veterans to our court so that we could work them through. And how that works is a veteran's charged with a crime. We give them the opportunity to work a program with vet-to-vet services, with the VA, and if they are successful in completing that program, the charges can be dismissed. Now, the reason behind that is it's not a get out of jail free card. It's a way that we can give them back to them for what they sacrificed to serve our country. I call it a debt of honor. Well, Bob was instrumental in making sure that that worked in Monroe County. I can tell you that this county commission has not had to pay a single dime out of any budget for the Veterans Court to function. Now, in all candor, you all have given a charity donation to the charitable organization donation from the county commission to disabled vets several times. And I'm sure some of that money probably overlapped at some point. But the Veterans Court has done it no cost individually to the county. We have the DAV and donations that make up the cost that it cost us to put somebody through. The Veterans Administration does provide most of the funding that allow them to go to the medical programs and that type of thing. The other thing with this kind of goes with what Andy's job is. We also work on getting the benefits that they may be entitled to. So through our program, you don't actually have to be charged with the crime. You can come to the vet court program and we'll work with Andy to get them the benefits that they're entitled to. So it's a benefit that you would not believe. Out of the people who have gone through my Veterans Court program, I've had a 96% success rate. I've had 2 people out of the whole program that have had a second charge. And one of those was actually, we had to kick them out of the program before they finished. So really, I've only had one person that completed the program ever pick up a new charge. And that one gentleman is just struggling. He is actually in a residential facility now. He's got some serious other issues that are going along with his veteran-related issues. So, folks, this is a program that I'm proud of. I used to tell that Bob used to call, I talked to Bob 2 or 3 times a week because he was a mentor to me. And I used to tell Bob, you know, I'm kind of like any officer in the military. I get to take the credit, but there's a lot of other people doing the work. And Bob was one of those people. There wasn't a time that the sheriff just stepped out. I was going to mention how good they've been, his officers, to let us know if somebody needs help. But Bob, there's not a time at 2 in the morning I haven't called Bob and said, so-and-so's in trouble. They need help. What can we do for them? And Bob wasn't on the phone to figure something out. And he's great to miss. But Bob suddenly passed away and he leaves a big void. But as I told his family, I think the thing that we need to remember about Bob is the legacy that he left, which is the Veterans Service Center. If it weren't for Bob, we wouldn't have been where we're at. It's the level of care that we give to our veterans in Monroe County. You all need to be proud of that as a commission. Because out of the 95 counties in Tennessee, other than the 4 major counties which have a lot more funding than we'll ever see, we provide more services than any of them. And that's because you all have been willing to allow us to do this through the courts and allow us to make it a priority. But Bob has been the key driving force in that. So I'm respectfully requesting that we are allowed to name the Veteran Service Center the Bob Hatley Veteran Service Center. I'd like to do that in his honor because I feel that without Bob and his dedication to the people of Monroe County, not just veterans, because Bob was the first one to help me out in a juvenile case if I needed clothes for kids. The first one to help out when we were doing Christmas drives for the kids. So Bob was there for everybody, but his influence, especially in the veterans community, can't be adequately shown just today. You would have to go with me to see what Bob's done. And if this resolution does pass, I would also like to have, when we do our dedication, to invite Bob's family back for that dedication, because I think they need to see what Bob did for this community. And I think they need to see those people that, you know, I used to joke with Bob that he was meaner to them than I would ever be, because he had that sergeant mentality with him, and he'd give you a hard time, but he always loved and cared about you. So I want them to see the change that Bob has made. But I respectfully ask the commission to name our Veteran Service Center in Bob's honor. And I ask that when we dedicate that we can dedicate that. I actually have funding left over, because we're not doing the camp this year, to pay for the plaque, the name plaque. So I can handle that through my budget without us having to dedicate any other funds. And if the resolution passes, I'll get that ordered just as quick as I can. So thank you all very much. Is there any questions?
And just to make sure, the name of the building will still stay the Beecher Witt Building. The service center itself will be named after Mr. Howard.
Exactly. The building itself is the Beecher Witt Building, and that was named by a county commission resolution in 97. And I'm probably wrong on that date. Somewhere in that area, the county commission voted that be the Beecher Witt Building. What I'm suggesting we do is leave the Beecher Witt Building, and under that it'd be the Bob Hatley Veteran Service Center. So we do have other room in that, which I'm not sure exactly what the pleasure of the county commission is to use in that area. So it is a building itself that has other things that'll be in it. Any other questions? Got a little, get going, so. All right, thank you all.
526-7, says whereas Robert Bob Hatley, who recently passed away, was instrumental in the formation of the Monroe County Veterans Court. And whereas in such capacity, Mr. Hatley, in the highest spirit of patriotism and service to those who served in the United States and its armed forces, faithfully and energetically assisted veterans with their needs and interactions with other organizations and governmental agencies. Whereas Monroe County deems it appropriate and fitting to honor, recognize, and memorialize the distinguished service provided by Mr. Hatley. And whereas in accordance with such desire, Monroe County wishes to name the Monroe County Veterans Service Center, which is to be located in the R. Beecher Witt Judicial Building in downtown Madisonville, the Robert Hatley Veterans Service Center, upon its opening. Seeing this resolution, you've heard the request by Judge Thomas.
Motion.
I have a motion, Commissioner Langford. Is there a second?
Several seconds.
Several seconds. Is there any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris Weisman.
Aye.
Roger Thomas. Paulette Summey.
Aye.
Bill Shadden.
Aye.
Adam Reynolds.
Aye.
Chad Leeny.
Aye.
TJ Langford.
Aye.
Richard Kirk.
Motion carries. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you all.
526-8.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move that we table this item to meeting in the future.
I second that motion.
Okay. I have a motion and a second to table resolution 526-8. Is there any discussion on the motion to table?
Any explanation why?
I'm just kind of curious of that myself.
Yes, and I can speak to that. I've had several phone calls, particularly one, I guess the question is I don't know that this has been before the Vulnerable Planning Commission. That was the first concern. The second was the original, and while it did pass through Niles Ferry, was predicated on seeing a full business plan and I guess business plan, and I don't think it's been through there. I don't think it's been through the Vulnerable Planning Commission yet. So until we can see that, several of the committee members had some concerns until they just saw some of that information that they didn't feel comfortable passing this through and approving the sale of that. So I don't want to ask the commission not to approve the sale of this. I'm simply asking the commission to table this resolution until the future meeting, at which time we can have that business plan from Mr. Schlegel, so we can see the actual use of that facility. I think most of the committee members, or some of the committee members, expressed some concern that it would be more of a storage facility, not necessarily anything industrial, based on what was discussed after the fact. So, we went from a conversation of storing some RVs, which is, while may fall under the purview of the covenants of Niles Ferry Committee, it is not necessarily productive industrial development for Niles Ferry Industrial Park.
I think you have to be careful with that because there are some other industries that may not follow in the covenants as it is as well. So when you deny one, you may have to go back. Mr. Melson, I think, was there at the meeting as well, and I don't really understand why you want to do that, which thing was there at that meeting.
I was aware I was at the meeting. I chaired the meeting. I'm not asking or saying that we're denying the sale of this property. I'm just saying that we table this until a future meeting, until we can see a business plan, or before it even goes to Vulnerable Planning Commission, which is part of that request.
The procedure would be after they go to them, after they approve the plan, they don't approve the sale, Vulnerable Planning Commission.
I'm aware of that. I'm just asking that
So
this
what do you
meeting
want to
before
go
we,
to Vulnerable Planning Commission for?
because Mr. Schlegel said that he would, and I believe that you had asked during the meeting that we could get that on this month's agenda for vulnerable planning, and I think Mayor Lovingood, Paulette, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Mayor Lovingood said that was possible to get it under this month's meeting, and so I don't think Mr. Schlegel may not have had his information in there. I'm just a little concerned that this is going to get rushed through, and we may be stuck with a warehouse there instead of anything that could be productive for Niles Ferry. That's my opinion. This commission's free to do what they want to. I'm just asking that we table this to a future meeting until we've had some more time to look at what this developer is asking us to do with the county's property.
But as long as he's within the covenants, I think he can do that. Right? I believe.
Yes, and I think, we discussed that in length there. I'm not saying that we are denying the sale of the property. I'm just asking that we table this until we can see that business plan and get more specifics on it.
I have a motion and a second to table resolution 526-8. Roll call, please.
Chris Weisman,
To table.
Roger Thomas. Paulette Summey,
Aye.
Bill Shadden,
Aye.
Adam Reynolds,
Aye.
Chad Leeny,
Aye.
TJ Langford,
No. Yeah, I ain't gonna argue with this.
Richard Coe.
No,
I ain't even gonna, I thought Mr. Last took it.
Motion to table passes. This
So
time-
we got a moment to discuss it. Is it coming in for next month's meeting or when is it coming back?
It can come back, my understanding, probably, it can come back at any future meeting.
But I mean, when are they supposed to approve whatever?
It was
you're
my
wanting?
understanding that Mr. Schlegel was supposed to get it before this month's planning commission, Vulnerable Planning Commission. I had not heard back that happened. So if he can get that before next month's planning commission, I'm not sure when they'd meet. I think it was, Bob said the date during the meeting, I don't have those notes in front of me. If he can get it before the June meeting, and they do meet before our commission meeting, then I'll be happy to bring that back from the table and we can discuss it at June.
Five 26-9, public comment from Ms. Rita Cox. And we want to thank Ms. Rita for being patient. She didn't ask for public comment several months ago when we went to an alternative format on public comment in meetings. She was very patient in waiting so she could come and address the commission. Ms. Cox is a concerned citizen as far as the animal shelter. And, Ms. Cox, you've got 5 minutes once you begin.
Thank you.
Ms. Cox. It was just, everybody else is
Hey, you did the one with jury redevelopment thing? I thought y'all didn't do nothing. I thought that's one of the things you were doing.
Part of it, that's what we just finished.
This one, but you ain't doing nothing. Okay. So I would just make sure.
If you're ready, I'm ready.
Yes.
On Monday, May the 18th, at the shelter budget meeting, I voiced concerns about the unsanitary conditions at the Monroe County Animal Shelter. I don't feel that there is a need to readdress those at this time. So, good evening. My name is Reba Cox. I'm coming before you this evening with concerns about the Monroe County Animal Shelter. From the year 2015-16 to 2018-19, the Monroe County Animal Shelter intake has decreased 31%. Shelter adoptions have decreased 36%. Transfer to rescue has decreased 9%. County revenues have also decreased 43%. And during this time, the county budget has increased 37%. The year of 2018-19 to 2019-20, the shelter budget increased by another 25%, bringing the total budget increase to 71% in the last 5 years. This does not include the additional $100,000 a year that Monroe County Friends of Animals contributes to the shelter for food, medicine, and on-site vet 1 day a week, according to their January 2020 annual newsletter. That's from November the 19th to March 2020, I have visited Loudoun County Animal Shelter, Blount County Animal Shelter, Young Williams Animal Center, and Union County Humane Society. In comparison, Monroe County provides the shelter with sufficient funds to provide services for the taxpayers of our area. Our shelter is lacking in sufficient leadership and stewardship to the community. I ask that Monroe County Animal Shelter it's in need of a master plan, a set of objectives and goals with a subsequent standards of procedures to achieve those goals, to better serve the community and provide a better environment not only for the animals, but also for the employees and the general public.
Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Ms. Cox, what'd you say something about the budget?
Well, in that, I gave you Loudoun County's budget.
Right.
If you look over Loudoun County's budget, Loudoun County has more resources than Monroe County.
Right.
Monroe County is spending more than Loudoun County. Their intake is higher than our intake.
I think their animal shelter's around $300,000, I think.
The revenue is higher. That was one thing that really, really shocked me about Monroe County Animal Shelter, and I'm not sure if the board understands how the animal shelter has revenue. The revenue from the animal shelter comes from adoptions from the shelter. So on average, we spend around $50 per animal for vet care. Our adoption fee is $50. So when we adopt out of the shelter, that revenue comes back in. So normally, if you look at the statistics, whatever the amount of vet costs to the community, to the county, comes back in revenue. The vet cost is staying the same, but the revenue is decreasing. We were down $27,000 last year. And we still have the amount of animals to adopt out from the shelter. There is a substantial amount of animals who go on transport. There's over 1,000 animals a year that go on transports to other communities, other states. And our shelter, with the conditions that it's in, we need to serve our community better. Like I said, I was denied services in October. I know of several people who have been denied services. Monroe County Animal Shelter is supposed to be an open intake shelter. It is a county facility, it's not a private run facility. So on an open intake shelter, you are never supposed to deny anyone services.
What do you mean by denied service?
If someone takes a mama dog and 8 puppies into the shelter should accept the animals. If somebody takes a cat in or a dog, but our shelter, if they're full, they will refuse intake. They will say, nope, we're full, we can't take your animal. That's what happened to me on October the 30th. I mean, when I went October the 30th, I wanted to surrender the puppy that I had. But in turn, I wanted to foster that puppy until a home was found. When I went to the shelter, I was denied services without being offered any alternatives. They did not approach me and say, well, you know, we have this program. Would you like to assist us? Would you like to follow? They didn't offer anything. I'm not sure what services are provided now and what aren't. Back at one time, people in the community who did not have the resources to have their animals humanely put to sleep because of age or illness, or the shelter would provide that service to the community. Now, I don't know for sure if they provide that or not. I will assume, since the euthanization rate is down to 14%, that is no longer provided. Monroe County Animal Shelter was an amazing shelter at one time. It was a training facility. McFaw and the county was working great together. There were volunteers to organize the volunteers. It was that great. And we're falling short. We're falling short. Our expense is through the roof. And if you'll compare the budget that you were given at the budget meeting to Loudoun County, you can go through that budget and you can see a lot of discrepancies, and I have a lot of questions on that budget. I don't know if anybody wants me to ask them here or not.
Would that not, I mean, it seems to me though, that the years that you're preparing, we're saving 50% more animals. So does that not increase our expenses? We've got that many more mouths to feed and that many more mouths to care for. We're not euthanizing that many more.
No,
So that
if
we-
you'll look, we're not saving that many more. Intake has decreased. We have less animals now coming into the shelter. We're not saving more animals than we were in before. We're taking in less animals
Can you
than we
explain
were.
why, I mean, why are we taking, what do you mean we're taking in less? We're not catching any, or, I mean,
Well, we shouldn't have to catch them.
I know that, well,
Well, due to spay and neuter
yeah,
that they do.
there should be less
there's
animals,
many
right?
But
animals on
if you
the
look
street.
in 2016, intake was 2,840 animals. I also put that in. If this is off the McFall's website, intake was 2,840. In 2019, intake was 1,947. So if the intake has decreased, the amount of animals going into this shelter has decreased. That does not mean that we're saving more animals.
There's just.
I mean,
not that many
there's like a
animals.
$400, there's a 400 animal difference between 2016 and now. In 2016, we saved a total of 2,086 animals. This past year, 1,674. So are we saving more animals? No.
There's not that many more on the streets. The spay and neuter program, that is a grant that McFall has someone applying for the grant, and you get free vouchers all over this county. And that has drastically taken down that number.
That is actually another nonprofit that is in the county. It's at,
I mean, I'll tell you who they operate, yes, they.
yes, it's out of Monmouth also.
Yes.
It's
It
another
was mine.
nonprofit. It's the Spay and Neuter Assistance. Out of Monmouth, there's another nonprofit besides McFall. That is,
If there's less animals, how does the budget go up?
do what?
If there's less animals to take care of and stuff that we're getting, well, how come the budget went up so high?
That's a good question.
I think, since they've been referenced several times, I know we have representatives here from McFall as well, Mr. Barrett, and also our on-site veterinarian. Would either of you like to speak, give the commission any information? Jim, do you have anything you want to present to the board? Dr. Barrett?
I have no presentation, but let me make one point really clear. The spay neuter assistance for pets, 501c nonprofit, is disbanding this year and folding into McFall. So our organization, I'm president of Monroe County Friends of Animals, current president. We now have a spay neuter committee, essentially the old SNAP organization, so they're part of us. But they've had a tremendous effect on intake over the years. Nationally, intake is down at all shelters. But that program's been very successful in reducing the intake into the shelter. A couple of years ago, when we got involved in trying to look at feasibility of a new shelter and so on, when you go to size that shelter, intake's a factor, how many animals is coming in. The other important thing is the length of stay. How long are they there? Not all that many years ago, it was easier to run the Monroe County shelter because you just put all the animals down. Makes your job a lot easier. Things have improved since then an awful lot. Yes, we have lower intake. The animals stay longer because we have management in our organization working hard to rehome them. And so 10 years ago, you had higher intake, the shelter was full. Now you got lower intake, the shelter's full. Okay, because they're staying longer, and we're trying to find new homes for them, so on. So that's the environment that you're dealing with. A couple of years ago, I also went to Loudoun and Blount, Roane counties to just get a sense of their staffing levels. Staffing, of course, is the huge piece of the shelter expenses, and their budgets and so on. I did that review, and I'll be glad with input from Reba to do it again. But my understanding of that was not that we're spending a lot more for fewer animals. That we were at best a little behind the other counties in both staffing levels and expenses, taking into account the differing intakes at each of the shelters. So I don't know. I can't get off the podium here though without saying that I like to tell people that this is a good story. Monroe County Friends of Animals collaborating with the county, starting this shelter up some 14 years ago, I think. Euthanasia rates going from saving 40% of the animals to saving 85% of the animals, so on and so forth. I think it's a good study, or a good story. And there's always improvement. Everyone on the planet knows we'd like to see a new shelter that would help with operations and everything else. But overall, it's a story of progress over the years. Dr. Berry's involved in a group that she got going to look at procedures in the shelter to make things better in a number of different areas. So there's a lot of people on their own dime working to make things better. And hopefully we will. I'd love to take questions.
Dr. Berry.
So some of you heard me speak a little bit at our animal shelter committee meeting several months back, and I just want to reiterate the thing that I said there, which is Reba, McFaw, the animal shelter committee, the staff, I think we really have the same goal. We want to see streets that are not littered by dead animals, and we don't want nuisance animals, we don't want overpopulation. We want to see animals placed in good adopted homes and get care. So when we're talking about we need new this, we need new that, I think it's just really important to remember that we all have the same goal. So I put together a couple of thoughts for you to tell you what I've seen and where I'm at. I'll start. First of all, let me really just say thank you to each one of you for the service you do here in the county. Until I got involved with this shelter committee and meeting with Mayor Ingram, I had no idea the scope and complexity of county government. You guys do not have easy jobs, and I am grateful for the benefits I enjoy because you work hard. I also appreciate that you are supporting our animal shelter. We are really blessed to live in a community where every individual life, both human and animal, has value and is worthy of consideration. That means a lot to me. and that's why I personally want to be involved with the shelter. So I have been involved with it for several years, but I've only really been working in the shelter regularly since about December. Currently, I'm working with an advisory group that we put together to try and bring the parties together that are involved in the shelter. So it's myself, shelter staff, Lori is a county representative, and then Dale Polwatch, who's a member of McFaw. So we meet regularly to go over and review the current shelter operations and see what we can do to improve them. Like everybody, we have been challenged and disrupted by COVID, but we've still made significant progress, and we've even seen in the shelter some positive outcomes from the shutdown time that we experienced because of COVID. Here's a couple of things that we are working on. We're using a system to assess animals based on their age, their type, and their behavior to determine how easily and quickly they'll be adopted and to move them through the shelter more efficiently. One thing that I heard Jim say that does affect our expense per animal is length of stay. And so we're working to find ways to shorten length of stay so that we don't have animals there for as long. But it doesn't mean, well, we euthanize them so they're not there long enough. It means we work harder to find out what we need and how to place them in homes or transports to get them moving through faster, in which case we'll be able to see and service a greater number of animals without overpopulating the shelter and making it hard to keep up with the animal care. That's one thing. We are also now scheduling appointments for animal intakes and adoptions. So we can use our limited space efficiently, and we can give time and attention to each person that comes into the shelter. It is an open admission shelter, and I know that when they have been overcrowded and overfull before, they certainly will ask people to delay coming in. And we're hoping that by scheduling, we can have a more orderly progression of flow through the shelter so that we will not be overcrowded and we will not have trouble with sanitation. And so far, we're seeing really good results since we opened back up with COVID. On the scheduling, it's made things a lot more pleasant for the people coming into the shelter, for the people working in the shelter, and I think it's a better service to the animals too. We're also implementing regular volunteer training to improve our overall public customer service and the care that the animals get. One thing that we've experienced with the COVID lockdown is not having the trustees there to help with cleaning, feeding, walking pets. Instead, we've experienced a real outpouring of volunteers, volunteering both to foster dogs and also to come into the shelter to feed and walk, do dishes and laundry, and help medicate and take care of the animals. So I think if you see things as they are now, our population numbers are down and it's a much more pleasant environment to be in. So we've really been blessed by that.
So you're saying there is no turn away, like she said that she was turned away?
Right, so then people aren't turned away, people are scheduled. We cannot take this animal today, we need you to schedule an appointment so that you can come in at a time that we can talk to you, find out why the reason you're having to bring an animal, surrender an animal, and do the best that we can to help you and to help your animal. When she had her experience in October, I'm the first one to say that one of the biggest problems was overcrowding. Working really hard at keeping our shelter flow. There's a thing I don't want to go into because it's long and complicated, but it's called capacity for care. That's how many animals can we have in the shelter at a given time that will keep it moving through efficiently so that we can both take in animals and get adopted animals out in good flow. In addressing the county revenue part,
$65,000 in 3 or 4 years,
yeah, so,
and it's down nearly 800 intake.
right,
but-
so the thing is that with the way that we take in animals and manage animals and adopt out animals, the revenue from adoptions, like she said, is not gonna cover what it takes to take care of an animal. It's gonna help offset those costs, but most of our, expense is in staff, and a great deal of our vet care expenses, that kind of thing, comes from the farm. So, if we can keep our shelter flow more efficient, that will actually help that balance. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. So I just want to wrap up by saying the mission of Monroe County Animal Shelter, boiled down, is keep animals off the streets and find them adoptive homes. But really, the services that we provide go a lot further than that. Because of the clause general support, because we do have a county budget working together to keep the shelter functional, we vaccinate animals, we deworm them, we spay them, we neuter them, and they get medical care when they need it to make them adoptable pets, to find situations for them. We work with rescues and other shelters to rehome animals when our shelter intake exceeds what's going on in adoption. I'm personally working hard to increase and promote local adoptions so when people do come in, there's pets to adopt. Beyond that, I still see more for the future of the shelter. Recently, with the Shelter Operations Group, we put together a survey that Mayor Ingram has helped us to circulate. And based on the responses I've received from that so far, what we want to create is a culture of compassion and respect. We want to be a center for education and support, and we want to operate in such a way that our work is both transparent and sustainable. We want to be a community center of animal welfare that our county will be proud of, and I believe we're making steady progress towards that goal.
Are there any other questions for any of this group? I know we have more items on the agenda that we need to get to. Thank you, Ms. Reed, Jim, Dr. Barry.
I just, two quick things. Nationwide euthanasia rate average is 20%. We are not a nonprofit shelter. We are a county-run shelter with the help of a nonprofit. Union County Humane Society is a 100% nonprofit animal shelter. Their county compares pretty good with Monroe County. Their budget to run their shelter at the same capacity as Monroe County, they actually have 2,000 animals a year go through their shelter. Their total budget is $256,426. Their county support, $20,000. Union County laid the groundwork for the direction that Monroe County should be headed in. Thank you.
526-10, public comment, please, Mr. Carroll.
New County. Don't know. They don't have New County.
God, they want $60,000 this year.
Davidson.
It appears that Mr. Carroll is not here for public comment tonight on number 10, but Mr. Riley is on the topic of Asian carpfish. So, and again, Mr. Riley has been very patient the last few months. He has asked to be on the agenda for public comment. So, Mr. Riley, you have 5 minutes. Thank you for your patience, both tonight and the months before, and you have the podium.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I appreciate being here as a resident of Vonore. I'm here to ask your commitment and support to take action against invasive species in the Tellico or in the Tennessee River waterway. All invasive species certainly are a detriment to our environment. But the silver and bighead carp that are moving up the Tennessee River towards our area will have a devastating impact on our economy, our community, and ultimately on our tax revenues. The silver carp, some of us that have been around it for a while call it the flying carp. And if you've ever seen them, you'll understand it is not an exaggeration. They're one of the 4 non-native, highly invasive, highly prolific carp species working towards our Tellico Reservoir. The Asian carp, the silver carp in particular, can get at least 3 feet long and weigh 60. Sometimes they've been registered up to 100 pounds, which is hard to believe. As a victim of an Asian carp, I can tell you mine wasn't that big that hit me, but it stung and it hurt. I was skiing at the time in northern Illinois. And in that part of the country, they have devastated our waterways and have changed the look of recreation, fishing, boating, and ultimately real estate values that are dependent on water access. Every place they've gone, or every place they've taken over, the native fish, the game fish, have been severely impacted, almost always in a negative way. They're a danger to boaters and water sports participants. They can change the desirability of a body of water. And one of the things that is attractive to this, that attracts many of us to this area, is our water and our beauty of our water and everything around it. They can change boating, fishing, and recreation. That leads to reduced purchases of boats, supplies, fuel, and other related items. And all of that leads to reduced real estate values, reduced tax revenue, both in real estate and sales tax. So really all I'm doing tonight, I'm not here asking for money. I'm not recommending that the county spend money on this at this point. Maybe someday that'll be the solution. What I am asking for is the county would take urgent and strong action to support efforts to stop the migration of carp into Watts Bar Lake, which ultimately, if we can stop them there, will keep them out of our lake, the Tellico Lake, and Fort Loudon Lake. So what I'm asking would be that you would adopt a resolution, a copy of which I brought, something that Loudon County has already done. And I guess there was a statewide call for that a few months ago. I'm asking our county to step in and lend its voice to the many nonprofits and the many government agencies that are working on this. Urging action, I would say to you that further study, which is typical of many of our agencies, is probably not necessary. The Upper Midwest has come up with solutions that have proven to be successful on stopping these. So really what I'm asking is that you adopt a resolution, add your voice to the many voices that are asking for our agencies to take action and stop the carp. The future of one of our prime economic drivers, the Tellico Lake, is at risk here. I really believe that. Obviously, I have a vested interest as a Bondora resident on the lake, but I think it's an item, an interest that all of our counties should consider. So I thank you for hearing me out. I believe one of my handouts was passed around earlier a month ago. I have some other items that I don't have copies for everyone, but I can leave them for anyone that would like to have some more data on this.
Do you have a copy of the resolution that Loudon passed
I do.
that you can give to the mayor and he can?
Yes, I can do that on my way out.
Thank you, Mr. Rollins.
Thank you.
Thank you for
your patience again.
No problem.
Ten, we done? You get it, okay.
Thank you. 526-12, resolution to grant approval for the Monroe County Sheriff Department to apply for a grant to furnish courtroom security equipment to Chancery Courtroom. Whereas the Monroe County Sheriff Department through Monroe County Government requests permission to submit an application to the State Tennessee Judiciary, AOC, and whereas in order to provide video arraignment and equipment paging system and monitors for Monroe County courtrooms. Whereas Monroe County Courtroom Captain Jay Mason, under the direction of Monroe County Sheriff Tommy Jones, will follow proper procedures in this application and will require a match of funds in Monroe County courtroom fees. And whereas Monroe County meets all qualifications to participate in this grant, to provide substantial improvement in courtroom security and increase deputy and safety at a fraction of the cost of equipment obtained.
Motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kirkland. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Langford. Is there any discussion or question?
Did we not discuss this already?
That was a different one. Captain Mason, are you back there? Okay.
Okay. Is this for the old jail and stuff, in the courtroom over there?
This is for the old courtroom.
Yeah.
This is an amended one.
Oh, okay.
1976, which was funded at 100%. We didn't even have to come up with 10%.
Right.
And so
Okay.
this is an add-on.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
What's the match for 50%?
There is no match.
We'll require
No new money for it.
Correct.
What was the 10% she was talking about?
This one, we may have to do the 10%.
So on this one, there may be new money.
Is this one not waived?
I don't have a backup with mine.
Oh, that's it.
But it goes along.
She said that it was 10% on it.
What's that you have to respond?
The add-on was, the add-on was what, $4,800, so 10% of that is $480.
The 76 comes with one.
Okay, so, okay. I see where it says that now. Okay, I'm sorry.
And the 480 might be waived, we're not sure yet.
I'd rather pay 480 than 48. I'm good with that.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris Weisman. Roger Thomas. Paulette Summey.
Aye.
Bill Shadden. Adam Reynolds. Chad Leeny. TJ Langford. Richard Kirk.
526-13 is the improvement agreement proposal with the city of Madisonville sewage. We have several presenters, Councilor Melson, Ms. Saunders, and Stacy Chambers, but I'm gonna ask, Jerome first. He represents both the county and the city on
Yeah,
this.
but there's no conflict of interest because I didn't take a side in this. I basically wrote up the agreement when both sides met independently and told me what they wanted in the agreement. But as you all know, on this property, there's a sewer pump station that was built in association with providing sewer here to this facility. That, of course, is still owned by the county, but the county doesn't have a sewer system per se and has an interest in transferring ownership of that sewer pump station to the city of Madisonville, which of course has an existing wastewater treatment system. Madisonville has an interest in placing, making some improvements to expanding the natural gas service area here along Highway 68. In that regard, Madisonville has undertaken to retain the services of an engineer, and the engineer is proposing to put this what's called a natural gas regulating station here, right adjacent to where the sewer pump station here is located. That will, of course, increase natural gas service opportunities in this end of the city. What the county has indicated through Mr. Chambers and through his discussions with Susan Saunders of the city is an interest in going ahead and having the city of Madisonville undertake promptly the responsibility to maintain this sewer pump station out here. City of Madisonville is willing to go ahead and do that, in exchange for which it proposes to get permission from the county here to put this regulating station adjacent to the pump station on the property. It's about a 10 by 21 foot, I think, pad that it's gonna be put on. So this is not anything immensely large, or anything like that. And so, what would happen is for the first 10 years of this agreement, the period of this agreement that you have attached to that resolution, Madisonville will go ahead and maintain the pump station for that period of time, but would ask the county for reimbursement for any expenses associated with that. There's a huge breakdown. Madisonville had to incur labor costs or something like that. Then they're not going to bill you for little chemicals that are put in there monthly or quarterly, but there would be some labor costs and equipment costs that they would pass along to the county for that 10-year period. At the end of that 10 years, they would transfer, they would accept ownership outright of the sewer pump station and would have the maintenance and obligation in all respects transferred to them. By that time, there may be some development out here, and on this end of things, there may be more customers that can be added to the municipal wastewater treatment facility for Madisonville. So what you have there is a resolution to approve this process whereby you give the city permission to put the regulating station here. You require the city to go ahead and immediately assume maintenance responsibilities. Those maintenance responsibilities are spelled out in that agreement, what they'll do and with what frequency they will do it. At the end of a 10-year period, then the ownership and permanent maintenance responsibilities will transfer to the city of Madisonville. The cost to the county in a situation like that, and this is spelled out too, is there's just be, in the event there's labor costs because something breaks. Of course, you have the benefit here of Stacy Chambers, who has a lot of familiarity with wastewater treatment processes and the operation of pump stations, to tell you whether this is a reasonable situation for you to consider. But I've written that agreement up in the ways the city has indicated they were willing to formulate a plan to go ahead and assume maintenance responsibilities for this now. And the county is willing to go ahead and assume some period of time in the future where they can reimburse the city for maintenance if any occurs out of the ordinary or different than what's spelled out in that agreement. And then at the end of 10 years, it's all on the city. Have I summarized that correctly, ladies and gentlemen? So Ms. Saunders here, who serves on the city board and is the board liaison with the city wastewater treatment department, she's been instrumental in communicating with Mr. Chambers, and they gave me what they wanted in the agreement. I've written it up in accordance with it. They both reviewed it. They have approved it in principle. It just needs authorization by this body in order to allow the county to enter into such an agreement with the city of Madisonville. Do you have any questions for me or for either of these individuals?
That natural gas property, is that the county's own property?
Yes, it's right here on this side, right next to this pump
It would literally be between where the water meter and all that, this stuff is down here toward the end of the road. Where you got the water meter and the pump station, it's literally gonna lie between them, so it's really almost an unusable piece of property anyway. And you might take into consideration too, here's the thing. We as the county will assume all costs, period. So it's not like we're willing to take on costs that we aren't gonna ensue regardless. I mean, the nice thing about it is a new station, there should be no cost to it, you know, I mean.
As far as the maintenance, the monthly, maintenance on it, as far as chemicals and stuff like that now.
So in 10 years, the natural gas and the sewer thing will become the city's
Not,
property.
not gas.
The gas, I don't, Ron, we can attest to the property itself,
Yeah.
it's just gonna be on our
Yeah,
right.
all you're doing is giving us permission to put the natural gas station on your property, but it is ours from right now forward. So you've given us permission to install equipment there, that's it.
But we gotta pay the cost for the first 10 years, is that what you're saying? Then they'll
The cost of maintenance, but it's like.
What is maintenance per month, per month?
Well, it wouldn't necessarily be that you're gonna ensue a lot of maintenance, not a lot of maintenance there, the maintenance cost is
What's
having that guy go out there, open the lid, make sure it's working properly. You just really need somebody who has the ability to do that. The city of Mansfield has the equipment, the trucks, the booms, and all that to raise those pumps,
Right.
wash them down, make sure they're clean, put them back in, and that has to be done here. Our maintenance department, to be honest with you, does not have, and is not thrown off our maintenance department, they don't have the knowledge or the equipment to do so. And the city of Mansfield does, so you're not talking about ensuing costs that we're not gonna have regardless. The cost would be, say you have a pump go down, and it had to be replaced, or you're gonna have to call them, because that stuff does have electronic and computers on it now. Sometimes you have to call in an expert to kind of redo that, and in fact, we've already done that a couple of times to rework that, and, you know, the city's pretty familiar with the way that works too. I'm pretty familiar with it, and I've actually adjusted it since we've had a contractor here to keep it from calling all the time, so.
Most of the equipment in your pump station is under warranty for 2 years, 2 more years anyway. So as far as that expense, the warranty to take care if something went out.
Okay, the gas regulating system, will the gas come to the Justice Center from that regulating system?
You're already full gas, under, the whole Justice Center is all gas.
Right.
Already, so we're providing gas from our other regulating
The
stations.
gas regulator station, just because I have lots of prior knowledge to do with the gas regulator station, the gas regulator station is to do a couple of things for the city of Mansfield. The one thing that it will do, it will immediately, once it is intact and placed in the system, it will boost the pressure to areas that they're having low pressure at right now. Mountain View Estates is actually one of those areas where they, back in the winter, lost a few customers because the demand jumped up so much and they didn't have the pressure to get it there. So it will allow them the opportunity to continue to service people. It's something they need to do. It also gives them the ability to expand upon the current system in multiple directions. So it could mean that you could actually service larger businesses and things like that. So it's a win for the county, it's a win for the city. It's something we probably should move forward with, in my opinion.
Relief on the sewer bill since we're giving you some quick. Should we get relief on the sewer bill? We're giving you
The $11 million, and that means the insurance has to care.
Who will mitigate our repairs? I mean, are they just gonna repair it and send us a big bill?
Well, we discussed that, Chad, and, you know, and we have asked them, and we have.
There's gonna be a mutual agreement, yeah, this needs to be fixed.
Yeah, and they'll kind of come to us. I mean, if a pump goes down, I can tell you, they can't fix it, we can't fix it. They're gonna have to call the pump. You know, so there's gonna have to be some just mutual respect that, hey, we give you a call and say, we've gotta do this, or this is what's going on. There'll have to be some professional courtesy, I guess, between the two departments.
We take over all, putting the chemicals, weekly checks, monthly checks on it, whereas you're having to do that now.
Okay. 52613, it says, whereas having it been determined that it is necessary for the city of Madisonville to install a natural gas pressure regulating station of limited dimensions for the supply of upgrading natural gas service on Monroe County property currently providing sewer service to the Monroe County Justice Center. Whereas Monroe County, Tennessee desires to transfer the city immediate maintenance and responsibilities associated with the operation of existing sewage pump station and vault providing sewer service to the Monroe County Justice Center. And upon the execution of this proposed agreement attached to Exhibit A, it desires upon expiration of 10 years to transfer ownership of the Justice Center wastewater pump station to the city of Madisonville. And the city, in exchange for permission from the county to install the regulating station, is agreeable to the immediate assumption of maintenance responsibilities related to the operation of the Justice Center wastewater pump station at county expense and the eventual assumption of ownership and responsibility for all costs related to the operation of Justice Center wastewater pump station and upon an expiration of 10 years from installation of the regulating station. Whereas the installation will be a natural gas pressure regulating station requiring a size of approximately 20 by 12 in size, consisting of various valves, piping, and appurtenances. And whereas the regulating station needs to be installed directly adjacent to the Justice Center wastewater pump station. Whereas it is necessary for construction and the installation of said regulations to the station to begin between July and September in order to complete the project in time for the high natural gas usage months of November and December of 2020. And whereas the county and city desire to proceed in entering into proposed agreement as Exhibit A for the installation of the regulating station and transfer of the maintenance responsibilities and ownership of the Justice Center wastewater pump station, more set forth therein. So you've heard the resolution, you've heard the.
Motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Langford. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Kirkland. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris Weisman.
Aye.
Roger Thomas. Paulette Summey.
Aye.
Bill Shannon.
Aye.
Adam Reynolds.
Aye.
Chad Leeny.
No.
TJ Langford.
Aye.
Richard Kirk.
Motion carries. 526-14, resolution for the sheriff to buy body armor. Whereas Monroe County Sheriff Department through Monroe County requests permission to submit an application to U.S. Justice Office for Justice Programs and Bureau of Assistance. And whereas in order to provide body armor and bulletproof vests for Monroe County deputies, whereas Monroe County Sheriff Tommy Jones will follow proper procedures for this application, will require a 50% match of funds from the county sheriff's budget. Whereas Monroe County meets all qualifications to participate in this grant to provide for increased deputy safety at a fraction of the cost of equipment obtained.
Motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Kirk and a second from Commissioner Langford. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Chris Weisman.
Aye.
Roger Thomas. Paulette Summey.
Aye.
Bill Shannon.
Aye.
Adam Reynolds.
Aye.
Chad Leeny.
Aye.
TJ Langford.
Aye.
Richard Kirk.
Have a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Have multiple, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for coming.
Voting.